Just because it's not your fault doesn't mean it's not your responsibility. Welcome to McBain Moments. Alright guys, as usual, before we get started, if you're new to the channel, welcome to the manor. Please make sure you take a moment and hit the subscribe button in the corner there. We are on the road to 13 million subscribers, one subscription at a time, so make sure you subscribe. Okay, fault versus responsibility. And this is something I see a lot about on the interwebs, and I think it's something that we really misunderstand from a constructive standpoint. So I wanted to take a McBain moment and just talk about the difference between fault and responsibility and what it really means in context. So, as an example, sometimes things happen, and it could be your fault. It might be the fault of someone that you in your network, or it might be no one's fault. You know, it's no one's fault when a storm plows through a place. You know, it's no one's, or it could be the fault of they could be doing construction outside and they strike a water main, so you have to shut your doors for a couple of days, and you had something really, really important going on in that area, or you can't make it to a doctor's appointment. None of that's your fault, but it is your responsibility to make it so that it doesn't affect you too badly. See how that works? And I think that it's becoming more and more apparent that there is a desire for people to pass the buck. I see it a lot, and I see it coming from all directions. This isn't my fault, therefore I shouldn't have to deal with it. Why should I have to handle this? It doesn't matter. When something happens, you have to be willing to pick up the ball and run with it to fix it. Or find out if there is a way that this can become advantageous. Bad things happen. The question is, are you just going to let them happen to you? Or are you going to say, okay, this happened, we're going to make the best of it, and maybe we can turn this drawback into an advantage somehow. If for nothing else or no other way than saying, I've experienced this before, so the next time this happens, I know what to do. And I can teach other people how to handle it. People who aren't willing to take responsibility, even when they're not at fault, don't get very far. Because they're not willing to take the ball and run. And again, it doesn't matter what it's in. It doesn't matter if Jack at the desk next to you was the one who accidentally fried the system. If you know how to fix it, fix it. Or if you've got an idea, speak up. There's a distinct possibility that if everyone were willing to take responsibility for the things that happen in their lives, not only would the number of bad things that happen to them reduce, the effect of them would geometrically be reduced. Because they could say, okay, it sucks, but let's take care of it. When you don't take responsibility, when you aren't willing to be responsible for the bad things that happen, even if you're not the one who caused it to happen, you abdicate the ability to better yourself in your life. It's that simple. And I'm not saying it's not going to hurt. I'm not saying it's not going to suck. I'm not saying that there aren't going to be times you're going to want to cry, or you're not going to shed blood or sweat. It's just that when you take charge, when you say, okay, this happened, let's fix it and make sure it doesn't happen again, it shows that you are willing to go take that extra step. And then you'll know in your heart that, okay, this happened before and I know how to deal with it. So this really isn't a major problem anymore. It's a less of a problem. And then the next time it happens, you're like, okay, I know how to handle this. And then it becomes even less of a problem. And as that expertise grows, You're solving problems instead of having problems. These things aren't hard to understand, but it does take willpower. And willpower is not always something that we have, because as a society we have learned more in the last 20 years about the things that people struggle with than we knew in the 100 years before that. Depression, anxiety, mental illnesses, autism, which isn't a mental illness. We don't really know what autism is. And that's of personal fascination to me because I have an autistic brother. These are all things that we have to contend with on an individual basis. Some of us have in any given day, you're probably going to run into at least one person that has any one of the things I just listed, except maybe autism. And even then, we're finding the spectrum's a lot broader than we initially thought. ADHD is another one on that list. Each person is figuring out how to cope with the things that they contend with. But they're coping with it because they took responsibility for it. Responsibility to handle the things, the obstacles in their life they have to contend with. And if we all did that, lives would get a lot better. And again, I'm not saying it's easy. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect. Because I'm here to tell you I'm not. But I work toward it. And when I make a mistake, I say, yup, that was my screw up. This has been a McBain moment. Subscribe.